What's up, y'all? Sion here again with another video. Y'all, I was just out here in the shop, just chilling, cleaning up my bike some. I had washed it off a little bit. And a topic came up on my mind. And I said, you know what? This could be a dope video that can help a lot of people out. Is the transitioning from sports bike to Harley Davidson or cruiser motorcycle. I'll just start with me. My story is my first two motorcycles were actually cruisers. They were Hondas, and the cruiser motorcycle was great. I have ridden the sports bikes, and it's a big difference. So it's a lot of difference in the two motorcycles. I know with a lot of people, when it comes to talking about Harley Davidsons or just talking about cruisers in general, that a lot of people be like, man, I ain't want no grandpa bike, or I ain't want to look like no old man. Honestly, I had the same thought before I even got into motorcycling. And when I was in the dirt bike phase, I would always tell myself, man, why in the world would I want an old man bike, look like an old grandpa bike? And I might have been early 20s at the time, or probably younger than that. And my dream at one point in time was to get a sports bike. I liked the style, the colors were real nice. And where I'm from, the bike rallies are really popular, especially down there in South Carolina. So a lot of the young black people would have the street bikes and would just ride out on them. And it just looked so cool to be on that street bike. And I had always told myself, you know what? I want a street bike for my first bike. And I'm sure somewhere along the lines, I have some pictures of me on some street bikes. But I messed with them, and it just wasn't my style. It was a lot of things that see, I'm a tall guy. I'm 6 foot tall. I got a little weight on me. So on a sports bike, yeah, you got guys that are tall that like them, but for me, I just didn't like the scrunched up feel. I felt like I was squatting down or something like that. I don't know if you feel me, you drop it down in the comments below. So then what happened? A buddy of mine, he's an older guy. Shoot, at the time he probably was about 55 maybe. He pulls up to work on a Harley Davidson Street Glide. I didn't know a thing about Harley Davidsons. He was old, but his bike in particular, it was like a brandy wine, or I think he called it a black cherry. And it was nice. It was a 2006 model. And I was just asking him about his Street Glide. He was just giving me information on it. And I said, wow, this is a really cool bike. And he looked so comfortable. He pulled up listening to the radio. And I'm like, yo, wow, that seemed like a real dope experience. So when I decided to get back into motorcycling, I was just looking into cruisers. I didn't jump into Harley Davidson yet. I felt that I just wasn't ready for that. I just wanted to get my feet wet with the cruiser bike. So I bought that 750. And then I bought a Honda VTX 1300. Both of those Hondas, by the way. So that 750 was a Honda and the VTX was a Honda. But I purchased them and I just got my feet wet with riding. Honestly, just more of getting the feel of how the cruiser setup was. I even had my VTX set up like a Street Glide with the Batwing fairing. And I just noticed, I was trying to make my Honda into a Street Glide so much, I'm like, let me just go out and look for the motorcycle. So one day, I'm kicking it with my cousin, and he had a Road Glide. And he was like, man, take this Road Glide for a test ride, just to see what you like about it. I fell in love the first ride. I probably went just a few miles, and it was nighttime, and I fell in love with the Road Glide since then. So I set my sights on looking for a Road Glide. I eventually found it after years of just searching and just networking with people. That's why, y'all, I want to tell you, network with as many people as you can. You will be surprised what other people know, and they can point you in the direction of what you want. Strangers have everything you want. Talk to people. Like, for real, you got to network. If you network, you can find out a whole lot of things that you never even know existed. And I found out about a place that sold motorcycles out of South Carolina, and I just slid through one day on the VTX and ended up trading. But the transition was different because the VTX 1300, it had some size on it, decent sized bike, but it rode real stiff. But coming on to the Road Glide, it was a bigger engine and it's got a lot more power. But I noticed with the more power, it handles a lot better. With two people on that motorcycle, I don't feel the lag. Like on my VTX, I will feel like a lag, like the weight from me and the other person would just, it would kind of make the bike just lag like it wanted to, like it wasn't getting enough power. But the Road Glide, I don't feel none of that. And I just enjoy riding and having a passenger on the back and just enjoy just going out for a good cruise. The Harley Davidson, you got to get used to the size. If you are, like I said, coming from street bikes or smaller bikes, you're going to have to get used to that size. My VTX wasn't as heavy as the Road Glide. The Road Glide does have it in size because the VTX standard, it doesn't come with a lot of the add-ons like the Harley Davidson does. Like, for instance, my VTX, like I told you, had the Batwing fairing, but this right here, it just has the shark nose overlay fairing. And getting used to that is one thing within itself, because with the overlay fairing, it doesn't move. So your handlebars, they move on their own and your fairing stays stationary. So while you're riding, you just got to know where to put your hands and how to turn the motorcycle without using your fairing, because it sits still the whole time. So that took a little bit of getting used to, but honestly, I wasn't worried about it because this was the bike I wanted. Honestly, if you're a tall guy, like over 6 foot tall, I would suggest you get a Road Glide. Why? Because on the Road Glide, you have a lot of space in the cockpit up here. I mean, it's so much space for just within your arms. You don't feel cramped up. And that's what I like about that. You don't feel cramped on longer trips. You don't feel cramped up. But see, on that Street Glide, I noticed a lot of shorter people would get it. Like my buddy who had one, he might have been like 5'6". And, thinking, about me, I wasn't thinking about that at the time. I'm thinking, okay, this just looks cool. But then I learned it's more about comfort too. So, like, if you were a taller guy, I would suggest you go with the Road Glide. But it was just a few more things, like the road, the way it handles on the road versus a sports bike. Like I said, it's got a lot more weight, so you got to do a little bit more in the maneuvering. It's not that bad. Like, I know on a street bike, you can zoom whatever you want to, but on that bagger, you got a lot more weight on it. You got a lot more components because you got bags on the back, and you got to be careful where you're going into certain places, like especially in the parking lots in some places where you want to just squeeze in between cars. You got to be careful with your bags. You can scar your bags up. You can break them. You don't want to do that. But all in all, comfort. Y'all, I'm going to tell you, it's something about the comfort of those bikes versus the sports bikes. Something about just being able to ride out for hundreds of miles and just not, I mean, you're going to feel some pain. You're going to feel a little bit of pain, but it's just something about riding out for hundreds of miles in comfort. Now, mind you, you're going to feel some pain. I mean, it's a bike. It's a motorcycle. That butt going to hurt. It's going to be what it's going to be. But the setup on the Harley Davidsons and versus the sports bike, it's built for comfort. That's what these bikes are. They're touring bikes, and usually when you're touring, you're gonna want to be some sort of comfortable. But I've noticed guys on street bikes and on smaller bikes where you kind of crunched up and it's not a comfortable ride. But I just want to just do this video just to talk about the transition on some of the things you're gonna notice and some of the things you're gonna feel when just transitioning over. There's a lot of things on the bigger bike. I'm pretty sure that, there's a lot more components there when you're dealing with power. And I'm not sure if a lot of your bikes may be fuel injected versus carbureted. My other bikes were carbureted. In the wintertime, it would give me a slow start sometimes, and I'd have to pull the choke. But on the Harley, it's fuel injected. So it's literally like your car. You start it up, hear your fuel pump, fires right up. That's another thing that I liked about the bike. And I'm sure you could get older Harleys with the carburetor, but a lot of the more modern ones, they're more EFI, electronic fuel injection. So you'll be all right. But yeah, I just want to do this video right quick just to talk about the transition from the sports bikes or the street bikes or whatever else you want onto the cruisers. And if you own a cruiser, just moving up in size. All right, y'all. I'm going to talk to you later. Peace.